My name is Christian. I'm Father Christian, a Comboni missionary born in Italy in 1977. I grew up in a Catholic family, committed in the parish, and I did my primary and secondary education in my home village. During my time, I was committed in the parish. I was in the group of the altar server and also of an Italian group of youth that is called Azione Cattolica, that think about how to be committed to live our faith in practice and in our life. In my family, I had also an uncle that was a missionary, not a Comboni missionary, but a missionary of the congregation of St. Joseph. He spent all his life in Ecuador, and so I came closer with the idea that I wanted to become a priest and to be especially a religious priest for mission. Therefore, during my time at the secondary school, I met the Comboni missionaries in a time in which I was discerning about my life and what I wanted to do in the future. And as I came to the house of the Comboni missionaries, I started thinking about Africa because the missionaries I met, they were mostly committed for Africa, a continent that still needs the presence of witnesses to bring about peace, reconciliation, and also development coming from a right conscience of our dignity, of our human dignity. And so, after 10 years of studies with the Comboni missionaries, I joined after the secondary school, and then I did my philosophy, novitiate, and theology in different parts of Italy. I concluded my studies in 2004 in Rome, and I was sent to South Sudan. It was a great occasion because South Sudan in those years, they were discussing the peace agreement, which was signed in January 2005. And then the Institute of the Comboni Missionaries, they planned to send young missionaries. I was only 28 at that time, to reinforce the presence of missionaries that have been in South Sudan in time of conflict and war, and so also of insecurity, where they witness really the poverty of the people, and they also had to do mission in a very poor condition. And here comes also the witness of Father Jose Parladé, a Spaniard that was for several years here in South Sudan. While I was in my studies, I met these missionaries and I was greatly inspired by them, and I desired to join them in this special place of Africa because I felt that there was a special need of lives dedicated to share the journey towards liberation with the people. Then I joined the missionaries in South Sudan in 2005 after 1 year of studies of English in England. And when I came, I was sent to a new opening among the Nuer in the Upper Nile region of South Sudan. It was a mission of first evangelization, and it was a great experience for me because I came as, let us say, like a good Samaritan, but I realized that I could do nothing unless I was first of all welcomed by the people and helped by the people. First of all, learning the culture and the language, but also the style of life and the condition of living that was certainly much poorer than what I experienced before in my youth. So I discovered that in a situation like South Sudan, what is most important to live is the solidarity that people are able to show among themselves. Without solidarity, there will not be life, because poverty can be win only with the solidarity and join hands and making common cause together. In fact, we see that the country is not poor, but is impoverished, or people live impoverished, even though resources are there, the population have not access to those resources, or not the possibility to use, or the possibility to use them to build up a better society and better living condition. This is because of the years of conflict of the past, the insecurity, the condition, the corruption that is there in the institutions and the system that do not allow really a true development. So first of all, solidarity. And so I found myself to be a good Samaritan, that I've been actually helped, that I've been given food when I was hungry, accompanied in long journeys on foot because there were no roads, accompanied to reach different villages, welcomed in the family, and also protected in case of insecurity when we had to run in situation of insecurity and conflict. I was safe because people made me safe. So I had this experience for 11 years in a parish where mostly we worked for the formation of the lay pastoral agents, because parishes there are so large that can be compared like with our large counties, even covering distances of 100 kilometers per 100 kilometers with many Christian communities. So a priest can work only if he is able to collaborate with the lay pastoral agents, and especially the catechists that are the real backbones of this church, where the catechist is not only a teacher of the doctrine, but is also the one that would gather the community, that do lead the prayer on Sundays, that do prepare the people for the sacraments when the priest would arrive. And so the priest could do really very little without these lay pastoral agents. So for the 11 years in the parish, mostly I had to work in the formation of these pastoral agents, looking towards a church that is a synodal church, that is a family of God, where each one has his own responsibility and is called to witness. Beside this, I discovered that the greatest poverty is illiteracy, where I was about 95% of children, they did not have the chance to join a school. The alphabetization was very, very low. And this would make people vulnerable to manipulation, to ignorance, and so also to division in case. Therefore, we started in all our centers to create, first of all, some village schools where there was alphabetization, language, and mathematics. And then later, after some years, we started with the first primary schools at the mission place. Then, of course, I changed place. I was no more working in that mission. After 11 years of pastoral work in that context, I moved to the capital. I was in charge of vocation promotion and youth activities and seminarians in the capital city. I visited different parts of South Sudan. I discovered also the importance of the work for justice and peace and reconciliation, because much of the gospel that we preach has also to bring people together. It's preached in different languages, is understood by different people, but while they understand what is said, they need much to come together and put that word, which is the gospel, also in practice when it is time to forgive the wrongdoing that happened, the violence that would happen in our country, and also to heal for those traumas that leave wounds in their heart and make them unable to relate with others with trust. And especially trust also not only towards the people, but also towards the institutions, and trust towards the future. When a person is caught up by trauma, is not able to think about the future, but only to take advantage of the present, which is great poverty. We have a very young nation. More than half of the population have less than 21 of age. Youth that mostly have the doors open for nearly everything, but also youth that find little room and little listening by the society, little opportunities to develop themselves. And often power is in the hand of elders that knows only the law of the stronger and the experience of the conflict of the past that make the country to live in a certain culture of violence and war that will not help change. So therefore, believing in youth, it means reconciling people, healing the wounds, offer education, and give space to new narratives that can come only with the young generation. And so we have great hope for that. After 16 years in the country, I've been asked to be the Vicar General of Malakal for a time, and from there the Bishop of Rumbek for a couple of years, and now Bishop of the new erected Diocese of Bentiu. It is almost 2 years that I am in this new diocese, which is not born because it was ready to be a diocese, but because the population here suffered very badly the conflict of 2013, 2019. More than 80% of the population is displaced in camps, IDP camps, camps of displaced people. We also have many returnees from Sudan and refugees from the Sudan because of the Sudan war. And lately also because of the flood that is covering about 40% of the land, which was land available for agriculture and for grazing lands. And so the Holy Father thought that in this area of the country where people is suffering so much poverty, it was important to be present as a church with the diocese, with the bishop, with priests, with missionaries that would give hope and work for the reconciliation of the population that is present in this area. We have two communities. We have the Nuer community and the Dinka community that they are known to be one against the others. And so as a diocese, we are like an example for all the country where two ethnic communities that are at odds with one another can finally come together and overcome the past and choose dialogue and build the nation together. We see that in the Catholic communities, this is already present because people are able to come together to pray, but also to think together about their future, trusting in God and trusting in the dignity that God has given to all of us. We believe in evangelization, that the gospel really can bring that liberation that the conflict has not brought to the people. The war of liberation gave a flag, gave a name, they gave the name of a country, but yet people have to overcome so much injustices that have been committed to be able to live in the country in freedom. We have the commitment for education, as I said, because in this area of the country, the greatest poverty is the lack of education. I was a bishop in Rumbek, where instead we have many schools, and we see that the population is improving and contributing positively, whereas here people are still much behind. We have a ministry to work for justice and peace and reconciliation and trauma healing. We want also to work in the field of health, to take care of people that are left behind from the healthcare system of this area, which is covered mostly by NGOs. And let us say MSF is doing a great part, but it's still an emergency medicine, while there are so many people like elderly or disabled or people with chronic disease that do not find health care and services. So we can create a compassionate care spirit in our community, able to visit the sick also in their homes, that they may not feel abandoned and cared for. And then, of course, we would like to put in place also projects of human promotion, especially activities, economic activities that can improve the condition of people, especially through agriculture or any other activity that can bring a better life. We are thinking that each parish should have an agricultural project. We are trying to put up also some bakery shops, and any activity that can bring value in the work that it is done, because connected to agriculture, besides producing crops, we can also have some breeding of animals, inserting, for instance, poultries, chickens that are not yet present in the families, eggs that are not yet eaten, because culturally it is still quite a taboo to eat an egg, but is so important in the diet of people, and transforming also the products that will be produced in the agricultural field, because conservation is certainly a problem. And these activities in agriculture also help us to look into the environmental issue, because we live in a land that is flooded, but is also polluted by the presence of displaced people that do not take care of the environment. They just dump their rubbish. And of course, large number of displaced people create a huge dumping place that pollute the land and the water, but also the pollution that comes from those factories that exploit the land, especially in this area, the oil exploitation that in part has already polluted some of the area. In a way, we have to also to promote through agriculture this attention to the environment, to preserve the land and to use it like a blessing for the people, because the land can produce good fruits when it is worked and respected. Maybe I can say something about Sudan. I take this chance to greet all the friends of Sudan in Spain, because there being a great collaboration with the Diocese of Rumbek, and especially in the time of the presence of Father Jose Parlade, where they supported Father Jose Parlade of the mission of Irol in the construction of several centers where there was a school and a church. And this promoted many local communities and gave them the chance to have access to education and other services. As they continue to support also the diocese in Rumbek in other areas, especially in the field of education. Lately, also the Catholic University Rumbek campus in the support to the institution and the payment of the teachers and improving the facilities. I really also count in the support of our Sudan to build up this newly erected diocese of Bentiu, which is certainly among the most abandoned and poor of South Sudan as an area. We have already received $40,000 from Sudan for the education project, and we have in plan this year to build a block of classes, 4 classrooms with an office, to open next year the first primary school, diocesan primary school in Bentiu itself. But in Bentiu, we have at the moment 10 parishes, and we will be happy that in each parish there will be a primary school to give more chances for education to our youth. I think here only 25% of children have access to a primary school, and we don't want to see only an elite to be educated, but we want to open this chance to most of the children, because really only education can make people free, be able to also to uphold their dignity and fulfill their duties for the future. We want to start also an activity of health, and I'm looking forward for support from Sudan also to promote this service towards health and dignity of the people that are mostly left behind, especially elderly and disabled children. I think we are living a very crucial time of humanity and our world, where it seems that powerful nations are deciding the sorts of all the world, and where countries like the African countries or countries of our continents that are under development seems not to have a voice or to have a space in the world economy and decision making, especially. So we see Africa that is mostly plundered of their resources, yet it is not listened and it is not given room to give hope to the world. Um, Now Sudan and South Sudan are two countries living a very delicate time. Sudan in war, South Sudan with institutions that are still very poor. But generally, we see that Africa, even though it is not given a voice by the world, yet they are very young nations and youth have great dreams towards the future. So countries that are powerful but are getting older and they have less ideas about the future and less vision, I would say, on how to live together. I think they can learn much from Sudan, South Sudan, and other countries that instead are really coming up, looking for more space, and especially the desire to fulfill also their dreams, to have life. Um, Giving less importance to each individual, but giving more importance really to communities that are asking for life in a world that only individuals are getting richer. I think Africa would teach us that either we are all richer together, sharing the resources, or there will not be life for anybody. I can remember the strength that came to me by people, especially the time I was in Fangak, in a small village that was cut off by the conflict. I remember that visiting some families, even with the catechist and the youth, uh, welcome in their places. Often I felt so poor and in due also to apologize for so much disturbance that I was bringing to their life. But people were always so generous to welcome me in their families and help me so much that a girl that stayed half a day working to prepare the food and the accommodation for me, the catechist and the youth, she told me, "Father, don't worry. Why you worry so much? When a heart is happy, he is never tired." And these words encourages me in my mission, because really when our hearts are happy to do something, happy to live fraternity, then we are never tired, even though we may encounter many difficulties. And the second event was when instead I had to run for safety under an attack. And I was running with some children beside me. And while we were running, there was a young girl that was running with a smile while I was so much afraid. And when we reached safety, I told her, "But my daughter, why were you running with so great smile? Were you not afraid?" And she said, "Why should I be afraid? I was there with you. Nothing could have happened bad." And so the faith that people have and how they know to enjoy the little good things they have, also the company of people that are important to them or dear to them, especially a priest, because he's there in the name of the Lord. And so their faith make them strong to overcome a situation that would be impossible for any of us, which we are little in faith. I'm first of all happy over the friendship of M Sudan, because your eyes and your attention is kept to Sudan and South Sudan to create a relationship of friendship, of understanding, of knowing one another, because this certainly is the most important thing that would bring value to us and also value to the community of Spain. That have also to learn from these African communities. At the moment, the friendship of Sudan is bringing much fruit in terms of structures to build learning spaces for the children in different communities. We are working now in the primary school of Bentiu, San Martin de Porres. That will be really the first school that will bring hope within this territory. But beside this, we want to build blocks of classes in each and every parish of the Diocese of Bentiu. And we have 10 different communities. We are already aiming at Parian, Mayom, Abienom, and in the near future also Coach and other places to favor a place of learning for our young children.